In the words of the late George Carlin, BS is the glue that binds us together as a nation. Here comes a ton of it. It's time for BSing with Big Nate.
Welcome into another edition of BSing with Big Nate, and I am joined by a repeat offender today, Dougie from Crashing Atlas, joining me on this lovely afternoon. Dougie, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Big Nate. Always good to be here.
So it's been a little while since I've talked to you. You've had a busy couple of months. I think before I talked to you last, you were getting ready to graduate, and have since done so.
Yeah, nuts. I graduated with a degree in entertainment business. I'm beyond relieved that I'm actually done with this whole thing and just ready to focus on music again. I'm really excited about that.
So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations for that. I do want to ask, did they do like an online ceremony or anything for that?
Yeah, it was actually really embarrassing. It was because I'm a bit older, and I've obviously did the whole graduation through high school and stuff, but I feel so bad for the kids right now that are going through all this stuff. It's just, it doesn't take away from their accomplishments, but it still feels like it kind of did in a way. So
I'm conflicted on that. There's the whole ceremonial aspect that's kind of signifies the end, but I don't know that I really got as much value out of my graduation as my family did,
Sure. And I think it is more so for the fam. Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with you. Some kids, they love that kind of thing. Some are impartial, but I think it is more so your mom, your grandma, and everybody can take a picture and be like, that's a memory. It's hard to do a memory via the computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's tricky. Here, a lot of our high schools did drive-through graduations, which was really cool. We got to cover a lot of them. I was honored to be a part of it. But it was almost in a weird way a little bit more special, because what would happen is the families would line up in the cars, and the whole family. So it'd be 3 or 4 cars, and then they'd just be sitting there honking. And I remember my graduation, there was a big deal. You can't have air horns. Well, a car horn's significantly louder and more effective. So it was definitely pretty noisy. But yeah, that's enough on graduations. I want to talk Crashing Atlas and what you guys have got going on, because when this whole thing started, I called you on for BSing with Big Nate, and we talked about some stuff. You guys were doing some covers online and stuff, and then you really shifted into a different gear and started working on new Crashing Atlas tunes. I tried to get you to do a Tiger King cover album, but looks like that's not happening. So what's going on with Crashing Atlas?
Never say never. But no, we definitely did shift. And as we started to do those covers, we realized that we were writing some cool originals along with it. And, 1 or 2 originals turned into 15 for us. So we're set to go into the studio with 15 jams, and we're kind of going to sift through all these. We're going in for about a month in August out in Columbia, Maryland. Shout out to Vantage Studios. They're awesome. Thank you for having us out there and getting us booked during all this crazy madness. But we're going to be sifting through a lot of stuff, and we're really excited for everybody to hear the eclectic amount of stuff that we have. We're elated. I'll just say that we can't believe that we got to this point, and we're ready to go in and actually do the thing.
It's really exciting that my whole thing with all of this has been, it's all about finding the silver linings. And throughout all of this, you guys came together while being apart and put together, like you said, 15 songs. So you're ready to go in and record this album. I have to ask, compared to the way you guys usually do things, was it different? How did it feel this time around?
It was definitely different. It was we kind of had to find our groove in a way, because when we decided, we're gonna try and write some songs in quarantine. It's really hard to express your ideas via the computer, via text, and things can be taken the wrong way. And it's just really about coming together and finding that common ground, even though you are in different places, which is beyond difficult. I mean, we're excited because in 3 weeks I'm actually going back down there, and we're excited to be in the same room finally, to kind of like take what we did in quarantine and make it that much better, because we're going to be face to face and we're going to be able to clarify the ideas that much more.
When's the last time you guys were all together?
February 15th, our last show, before the quarantine thing happened. Yeah.
It's been a while. I mean, I haven't, like I was thinking about it, I haven't seen my family since Christmas. And I mean, that's one thing. Family's that's by blood. So there's that typical bond there, but you guys all choose to interact with each other regularly. You function as this band. So it's got to be I would imagine, a lot of excitement towards not only getting together, but fleshing this thing out even more.
It really is, because I mean, you mentioned silver linings, and that's the way that we looked at this whole quarantine thing, because if it didn't happen, we're as an industry, we're not able to play shows like we're not able to do this, that, and everything has changed. But what this thing did do is it brought us together in the weirdest way possible, because it shut everything down for everything that we did outside the band. So we focused on coming back together. It was just that common ground that we all had. We're like, well, we have this thing, it's called Crashing Atlas. Like, why don't we do something with that while we're doing a bunch of nothing? So I'm upset about like the way that the world is right now, and I think we all are in some way, shape, or form. It's all affected us, but we're trying to stay positive, and that's what we decided to do to keep that positivity, is write some banging tunes.
So being that none of the tracks have been played with you all in the same room, how's that going to look like? What are your guys' plans once you get into the studio? Like, is there going to be a week of, let's play it through, let's get it, let's nail it? Or like, what's the plan right now for recording this and fleshing it out?
So, a little bit of that. I'm going to be I'm going to be driving out here July 27th, a week before we actually go into the studio. And, it's not so much just to flesh these out together. It's pretty much just to be together again and be comfortable with each other in the same room, and just kind of get acclimated to each other again. And of course, we're going to be fleshing out different ideas and like what went right, what went wrong, during the process in quarantine. But that's what it's mostly about. It's just about us getting together and just being together before we go in there. We don't want to go in there cold. So that's our biggest thing.
And you said you'll be working on it for about a month. Like, is that a hard line for you, or?
Well, that's what we have booked. So we're kind of gonna take it day by day. We have a schedule set on everything that we're gonna be doing, but we're gonna be trying to get as much done as we possibly can in a month. And I mean, if that means it's gonna be 12 songs, cool. If that means it's gonna be 15 songs, awesome. But we're gonna get as much done as we possibly can during that time. There's not really a set number that we're like, okay, this is what we're recording. Like we have 15 songs and we're gonna use the best of them.
And are you eyeballing a particular release date? Like, you want to have it out by this point, or have we not considered that?
Yeah, in all honesty, with how things are going right now, we're going to be releasing a single before the end of the year. That is our hard line. We know that that's what we want to do. But as far as releasing the record in 2021, it's really going to be dependent on how things are moving through the industry. And I know that especially I think it works more for established bands, like hardcore established bands, that they already have their income coming in from previous efforts. So they're like, you know what, we can release a record without putting any touring on it. But for someone like us, we don't really have that option. So we want to, do it in a way that, yes, we're releasing music to like our fan base, but we also don't want to just like, here it is, and then all of a sudden we don't have any platform to promote it, besides, your traditional, online platforms. So.
Yeah. Last week I was talking to Kissing Candace, and they apparently, like, before everything started, they had finished their album. Like, they're just sitting on the album right now, and it's all a matter of timing because, yes, I mean, exactly like you said, you can put the album out, but if you can't tour on it, it's really like, what are we doing here?
Right. No, I mean, and that's what especially now that we depend on. And I I hope the timing works out, that 2021, it's like, yeah, we're going. I hope there's like some sort of magical light that goes off in 2021, that it's like, yeah, it's all good. Like, let's come together. Let's have shows again. But it is so uncertain right now. So I understand, especially their thought process. Like, I don't want to release this now, because I mean, what are we gonna do on it? Like, we release it, cool, then people have it, but only our select fan base has it. The goal is to get it to people that have never heard your music, and that's what touring does.
So another one, like, obviously, I mean, at this point right now, a tour would be a tricky endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any plans for any like one-off shows between now and the end of the year, or is that kind of just focusing on the album?
No, there are venues in certain states that kind of have like a lockdown on their protocols as far as what they're doing. And they have reached out to us. We are definitely in talks with some venues across the country to actually do a couple one-offs. So, I mean, when we get this thing done, I mean, of course, we're going to be open to a lot of things. I mean, if we feel that it's safe for not only us, but like the people coming in the venue, and we're comfortable with it, yeah, of course, we're going to be doing them.
I don't know what's going on in Maryland, because I live in Virginia. I know here we just entered phase 3 the other week, and I was shocked. Concert venues are open, and they're allowed to have either 50% of their capacity or 1,000, whichever number is smaller, I believe.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's pretty wild. You could definitely still, get some shows in right there in the area. I'm not one to tell you how to do your business, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. You play a show in Virginia, I'll make the trip just about anywhere in the state. So something to keep in mind.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think everyone's kind of thirsty for it right now. I know a lot of the music fans are really hankering for something to be going on, but at the same time, it's like we want to be responsible, and we don't want to be like perpetuating the situation at hand. In all honesty, we need our leaders to tell us that, hey, it's okay. It's not on you. It's on us. So, and I think that's what everybody's kind of waiting for right now.
Yeah, I think it's really like a delicate line. It's kind of like, to use a metaphor, it's who's going to be the first one back in the ocean after seeing a shark.
Absolutely.
And there's the potential both for backlash, but also being applauded. And it's just a weird, like, tricky balancing act.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some other things, because it's been a running trend with us to where we always go back to pop culture and what we're watching. So I need to know, what have you been watching lately?
Oh boy. Wow. Hell on Wheels on Netflix. So I'm like a big history buff guy, and so Hell on Wheels. It's not a new show, but it was a show that was on AMC like 5 years ago, and I just got into it. It's basically about the construction of the railroad in America, during the 1800s, and it is a wild ride. It is just really cool to see, like, how this country kind of came to be what it actually is today. So it's a good portrayal of it.
I didn't know that was on Netflix. I caught the first season of that, and I really enjoyed it, but it's kind of one of those things that I don't know why it happens to me this way. Stuff falls off my radar unless it's on a streaming service, able to just binge watch the entire thing.
Yep.
Have you?
I waited too. Like, I just waited to just watch it in all its glory.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll sit there. I'm not I'm not into appointment viewing. I'm
Mhm.
very much, I'll knock out a whole series. We just rewatched Parks and Rec for probably the fourth or
Right.
fifth time since it came out, and I'm always looking for something new. And have you watched Peaky Blinders?
No, and everyone's telling me to watch it. I've heard so many good things about it.
I highly recommend it. I'm a big fan of Cillian Murphy, so we'll go in with that disclaimer. I think
Right.
they do a really great job dealing with the kind of the rise of the mafia and organized crime, and all coming off the aftermath of World War. It's one that we're dealing with in that. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite shows, but we've
Nice.
been waiting on a fourth season for like ever, and I know it's already either it's about to air in England, but there's been like a 3-year gap, and I'm always struggling to find something. So that's why I ask you. But I highly recommend Peaky Blinders. I think you'd dig it.
Nice, nice. And I've also been watching just a lot of like music docs on there. I mean, I really don't care about the genre of music. I just love seeing like, artists' insight on things. And I don't know if you've ever got into the Garth Brooks thing that's on there. But it's unreal, like the story of his music life, just the way everything played out for him.
I have not, but he's had an interesting year. Of course, he did that drive-in show a couple of weeks back, and you had some thoughts on that. Do you want to talk about that?
I really did. I mean, I was kind of embarrassed by the whole situation. So we did a drive-in concert nationwide in all drive-ins across America. And from what I know, there's only like 50 drive-ins left in America. And he partnered with Ticketmaster for this thing. And so it ended up being like $150 a ticket for this thing. And it wasn't like it was a live event either. It was just a pre-recorded thing. And from what I saw from the reviews of like their hardcore fans was he was only on screen for about an hour. And I can't fathom that for 1 second, how it was that much. Like I had people arguing with me about it. They were like, well, some of the money had to have been going to the drive-in theaters. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, but Ticketmaster was involved. So I can't imagine that it was that much. So, I mean, it's when you're talking about someone like prolific, like Garth Brooks, I think he could have handled it in a better way. He probably could have cut out the middleman and just said, hey, I'm working directly with these 50, theaters and these 50 drive-ins. And let's call it a day. I've already made my money. Why do I need to partner with Ticketmaster for this thing?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I don't want to like marginalize and generalize country music fans, but Garth Brooks kind of promotes himself as this like down to earth, blue collar
Right.
man, and then he basically prices out his audience to go see a pre-recorded show at a drive-in theater. I know there are like technical aspects to tuning something live, but like you said, it was an hour of screen time. They're parting with their hard-earned money in a time when a lot of people right now are out of work
Oh, absolutely.
due to everything. And it seems like it was a very misguided decision. And I think he was trying to do something to rectify it. He was going to do a Facebook Live show with his wife, Trisha. And that ended up having to be postponed because they're not saying who, but someone involved ended up getting COVID-19. So it's a tricky situation, and I'm intrigued to see what he's going to do to come back from that. I mean, he came back from the Chris Gaines thing, so
Sure. I mean, he's Garth Brooks. I mean, like that. There's not much that he can do to like alienate all of his fan base because it's like he's just so massive. And I think that was the thing that was just so disheartening to me was the fact that he is Garth Brooks. He is like one of the top 10 most successful musicians of all time. We're not just talking about in country. Like he is like one of the most successful musicians of all time. And like to pull a stunt like that, it just didn't sit well with me. Like I think that he owed his fans a little bit more than that. Like if you were talking about like in the $20 to $40 range, like I would have been like, yeah, all about it. But like to have this thing be $150 and it's not even a a real thing that you're getting. You're not getting like an original experience. Like it's just I can do that at home. Like I can watch that at home. Oh, because I'm sitting in a car at a drive-in, like, that's.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also an audio fidelity issue. I mean,
Sure.
because it's going through, usually they're going through an FM feed and they're on the lower end of the frequency.
Right.
And I mean, you're not paying for concert audio. I mean, you're just not at that point.
No.
Your post about it, I followed that. I watched it. And you actually opened up quite a dialogue here around the station. We kind of all were excited about the prospect and thinking it was cool. And that it actually, like, in retrospect, it's a good thing we weren't really too involved with that, because it definitely was a disservice.
I'm not trying to call out like Garth Brooks in specific. I mean, I do know that, like, Ticketmaster, they're to blame on all this as well. Like they're getting their due by no shows going on, and all of a sudden when they're not raking in all this money, they will do anything. Like, I mean anything to get their dollar. And so, I mean, I wasn't so much calling out Garth. I think I was more calling out Ticketmaster and just the whole monopolization of like what they've done in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely, it's a long history of being damaging, but I mean, there's also the other aspect. It's kind of like the devil, Pearl Jam for, God, 26 years refused to work with Ticketmaster. And then at the beginning of this year, they're getting ready to release their new album and get ready to go on tour. So then all of a sudden they're like, maybe we do deal with Ticketmaster, but we do something about scalpers. And it's intriguing that a band of that caliber can, of course, hold that grudge, but there are bands that can't afford to do that. It's
because that's 90% of the venues.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a monopoly. And I think there needs to be a dialogue. I was kind of hoping, and you're right. It is kind of a very Ticketmaster thing to come up with something like this. But at this point, like it needs to be all about supporting local venues, buying your ticket from the box office, buying your ticket from the venue's website, avoiding Ticketmaster. I think there's a lot of ethical questions in the way they conduct themselves and the way they treat bands and fans.
Oh, ethics are out the window with them. They just are. I mean, them and Live Nation. I mean, it is very disheartening, because I don't know if you saw the new thing that is coming out with Live Nation, what they decide to do post whatever happens with this COVID. But it's no surprise that all the independent venues, they're going down one by one, and slowly but surely it's all going to be Live Nation venues. So now that Live Nation has the total control of everything, venue wise, they're pulling out some crazy rules now for artists to come into those venues. And it's getting as bad to where, like, they're proposing bands coming in. It used to be on the promoter and the venue to actually have the live event insurance. And now they're proposing to put it on the artist. And for anyone who knows what live event insurance is and what it costs, it is astronomical. These bands can't even afford to get from point A to point B, via their gas, because, Live Nation is already, sticking it to, the artists by taking half, 25% to half of their merch right out the door, and, paying them, half of what they're probably obligated to get, for their guarantees. And now you're expecting them to do live event insurance. It's like, it's just crazy talk that they're doing right now. And I mean, I think it's going to come to a head, especially with like the top tier artists. And that's where it's going to start with, like, the Taylor Swifts and the Foo Fighters and stuff, for them to be like, listen up. No, we're not doing it. Like, it can't be on us. Like, bands like our size, we have no pull whatsoever to do. Like, we'll do whatever to play these venues. Like, it's just like, yeah, we'll do anything. But like, starts with them, and the dialogue has to start with them. So, I mean, I hope that they're keeping an eye on all this stuff that's going on, and, they're looking out for not only themselves, but for the bands and artists underneath them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just baffling the way some of that's allowed to operate. And I think at the root of it, everything I know about live event insurance comes from when Dave Grohl broke his leg,
Yep.
and he ended up having to sue Lloyd's of London because they were the insurer for that tour, and they basically just backed out on what they were supposed to pay in the policy.
Yep. Yep.
And for the Foo Fighters, friggin' Dave Grohl, I mean, I'm not going to say he's the wealthiest man in the world, but if he's having to go to bat against these insurance companies, he's having to get the Foo Fighters lawyers involved. Bands of a caliber who are just trying to make the cut, trying to make it happen, trying to get their music out there, can't do it. It's gonna ruin live music if something doesn't stop it now. Nip it in the bud, in the words of Barney Fife.
Absolutely.
All right, that's enough depressing insurance talk for the day.
Yeah.
Crashing Atlas entering the studio in August. Hopefully a new single by the end of the year. Where can they find Crashing Atlas on the web?
Anywhere and everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. Who knows? Maybe even your backyard. We'll see.
I mean, if you would have come in my backyard, I will not make you get live event insurance. I think our renter's insurance will cover it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we'll work out a deal. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to talking to you again at some point soon, as maybe we get some updates from the studio, what's going on. But
absolutely.
Thanks, Dougie.
Yeah, thank you, Big Nate. Take care.
Are you sick and tired of using those cheap, smelly blue masks? They always seem to break, and no matter what you try to do and fix it, it just doesn't work. Plus, they look horrendous, and they never fit quite right.
There's gotta be a better mask!
Now there is! Introducing the new limited edition 105.3 The Bear Mask. This 2-ply eco-friendly face cover is washable and reusable. And the best part about the new 105.3 The Bear Mask is that 100% of the proceeds benefit the Southwest Virginia COVID-19 response course. Get your new limited edition 105.3 The Bear Mask today.